When Elena Brooks opened that cream-colored invitation, she had no idea she was walking straight into the most humiliating night of her life, a cruel bet designed to put her in her place. The wealthy man who orchestrated her public destruction watched her stand tall under the cruelest stares, and in that moment something inside him shattered. But falling for the woman you humiliated? That's just the beginning of this story. Because his family had other plans, his cousin wanted blood, and Elena had every reason to never trust him again. What happened next in that ballroom would force him to choose between everything he'd ever known and the one person who made him feel alive. Subscribe right now and comment where you're watching from, because this journey from betrayal to redemption will leave you speechless. The invitation card felt too thick in Elena's hands, too white, too expensive. She stood in the guest bedroom of the Whitmore estate, her cleaning cart beside her, and stared at the cream-colored envelope someone had left on the dresser. Her name was written across it in elegant script. Miss Elena Brooks. No one had ever called her Miss in this house. Eleanor tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear and glanced toward the door. The hallway was quiet. Mrs. Chen, the head housekeeper, was 2 floors down. The family was out. She shouldn't even be curious about this. But her fingers were already sliding under the sealed flap. The card inside was beautiful. Gold lettering announced a party at the Whitmore mansion this Saturday evening. Cocktails at 7, dancing at 8. And there, at the bottom, a handwritten note. Your presence would honor us. Eleanor's heart did something strange. A little leap, a little twist. She knew better. Girl, what are you looking at? Marjorie's voice made her jump. Her friend stood in the doorway, one hand on her hip, her eyebrows raised high. Marjorie worked the morning shift at the estate too, and she could read Elena like a book. Nothing, Elena said quickly, but Marjorie was already crossing the room. She plucked the invitation from Elena's hands, and her expression went from curious to angry in seconds. No, Marjorie said flatly. Absolutely not. What? You're not going to this party. Marjorie waved the card like evidence in a trial. This is a setup, Elena. A cruel joke. You don't know that. I've worked here for 5 years. The Whitmores don't invite the help to their parties. Marjorie's dark eyes were fierce with protection. Andrew Whitmore is a spoiled rich boy who thinks the world is his playground, and his cousin Daniel? That man has a mean streak a mile wide. Elena took the invitation back, handling it carefully. Maybe they're trying to be kind. Kind? Marjorie laughed, but there was no humor in it. Honey, people like them don't see people like us, and when they do, it's not to be kind. The words stung because they were probably true. Eleanor had been cleaning the Whitmore estate for 8 months. In all that time, Andrew Whitmore had looked at her exactly twice. Once when she'd accidentally bumped his shoulder in the hallway. Once when she'd brought fresh towels to the library where he was reading. Both times, his eyes had passed over her like she was furniture. I'm just saying, Marjorie continued softer now, be careful, don't let them make a fool of you. After Marjorie left, Elena stood alone in the guest room. She looked at herself in the mirror above the dresser. Brown skin, dark, curly hair pulled into a practical bun, tired eyes. The grey uniform she wore every day hung loose on her frame. She thought about throwing the invitation away. Instead, she slipped it into her pocket. Saturday arrived too fast and too slow at the same time. Eleanor stood in her small apartment, staring at her closet. She didn't own party clothes. She owned 3 pairs of jeans, some t-shirts, her work uniforms, and 1 black dress she'd worn to her grandmother's funeral 2 years ago. The black dress would have to do. She pulled it on and studied herself in the bathroom mirror. The dress was simple, modest. It didn't sparkle or shine, but it was clean and pressed. She'd washed her hair that morning, and now it fell in soft curls past her shoulders. You can do this, she whispered to her reflection, but her hands were shaking as she applied a little makeup, just some mascara, a touch of lip gloss. Marjorie's warning echoed in her head. This is a setup, a cruel joke. Maybe it was. Probably it was. But what if it wasn't? What if someone at that mansion had seen her as more than a maid? What if this was a chance to be treated like a person, just for one night? Elena grabbed her small purse and left before she could change her mind. The Whitmore estate looked different at night. During the day when Eleanor cleaned there, it was just a big house, impressive, sure, but familiar. She knew which floorboards creaked, which windows stuck, which rooms smelled like lavender, and which ones held that faint scent of old books. At night, though, with lights blazing from every window and cars lining the circular driveway, the mansion looked like something from a fairy tale. the kind of place where magic happened, or where dreams came true. Elena's old Honda looked painfully out of place among the luxury cars. She parked at the far end of the driveway and sat for a moment, gathering her courage. Through the tall windows, she could see people moving inside. Women in glittering dresses, men in dark suits. The sound of music and laughter drifted out into the night. "You don't belong here," a voice whispered in her mind. Eleanor lifted her chin. "Not yet," she said aloud, "but tonight I do." She got out of the car. The walk to the front door felt like miles. Her heels clicked on the stone path. Her heart hammered against her ribs. When she reached the entrance, a man in a server's uniform opened the door with a polite smile. "Good evening," he said. "Good evening," Elena managed, and then she stepped inside. Plotted narrative progression and emotional tension build-up. Good start. I'm establishing Elena's perspective, her doubts, and the setup for the humiliation. I'm using simple language and short sentences with good rhythm. Now I need to continue with her arrival at the party and the reactions she gets. Let me continue building the tension. The mansion's grand foyer took her breath away. She'd cleaned this space dozens of times, but she'd never seen it like this. Candles flickered in crystal holders. Fresh flowers exploded from tall vases. The marble floors gleamed like water, and everywhere, people. Conversations buzzed around her. Champagne glasses clinked. Women's perfume mixed with men's cologne, creating a cloud of expensive scents. Elena stood frozen just inside the doorway, suddenly aware of how plain her dress was, how simple her shoes were, how different she was from everyone here. A woman in a red dress glanced her way. Her eyes swept over Eleanor from head to toe. Then she leaned toward her companion and whispered something. They both looked at Eleanor. They both smiled. Not kind smiles. Eleanor's stomach twisted. She forced herself to move forward into the crowd. The conversations around her didn't stop exactly, but they changed, became quieter, more pointed. "Is that the maid? Oh my God, she actually came." The words hit like small stones. Elena kept walking, her head high even as her cheeks burned. She didn't know where she was going, just away from the entrance, deeper into the party. The ballroom doors stood open ahead. More lights, more music, more people. Elena took a breath and stepped through. The room fell silent, not completely. The music kept playing, but the conversations stopped like someone had flipped a switch. Dozens of faces turned toward her. Dozens of pairs of eyes studied her, and then the whispers started. "She's wearing her work uniform underneath, isn't she? Someone should tell her this isn't a charity event." How embarrassing. Eleanor's feet wanted to run. Her whole body wanted to turn and flee back to her car, back to her apartment, back to the small, safe world where she understood the rules. But she didn't run. She couldn't, because running would prove them right. It would confirm that she didn't belong, that she was exactly what they thought she was, just a maid, just someone to laugh at. So Elena stood still. She lifted her chin higher. She met the stares with steady eyes, even as her heart broke into smaller and smaller pieces. Across the room, a man was watching her. Andrew Whitmore stood near the fireplace, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He wore a perfectly tailored black suit. His brown hair was styled with casual precision. He looked like he'd been born in this ballroom, surrounded by wealth and beauty and privilege. Their eyes met. Elena expected him to look away, to smirk, to join in the mockery. Instead, something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or confusion. "My dear," a voice said beside her. Elena turned. An elderly woman with kind eyes and silver hair smiled at her warmly. The woman wore a blue dress that probably cost more than Elena's entire wardrobe, but her expression held genuine kindness. "What a lovely dress," the woman said clearly, loudly enough for others to hear. "Simple elegance is so rare these days. Everyone thinks they need to look like a chandelier." Elena's throat tightened. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'm Margaret Chen," the woman continued. "Mrs. Chen's mother, actually. I believe you work with my daughter." Recognition dawned. Elena had seen photos of Mrs. Chen's mother in the head housekeeper's office. "Yes, ma'am, I do. She speaks very highly of you." Margaret patted Elena's arm. "Come, let's get you some champagne. You look like you could use it." The older woman's kindness created a small shield around Elena. A few people nearby nodded respectfully at Margaret. The cruel whispers faded to background noise, but Elena could still feel the stares, still sense the judgment hanging in the air like smoke. A burst of loud laughter came from across the room. Daniel Whitmore, Andrew's cousin, stood with a group of young men, All of them were looking at Elena. Daniel said something else, too quiet for her to hear, and the group laughed harder. Heat flooded Elena's face. She knew laughter like that, had heard it before in school, in other jobs, in 100 small moments that taught her she would always be on the outside looking in. "Ignore them," Margaret said firmly. "Small minds make small jokes." But ignoring them was impossible. Daniel was walking over now, his friends trailing behind him like shadows. He had the same confident stride as Andrew, but where Andrew's expression had been unreadable, Daniel's was pure amusement. "Well, well," Daniel said as he approached. His smile was sharp. "Eleanor, isn't it? I'm so glad you could join us tonight." "Thank you for having me," Eleanor said quietly. "Oh, we insisted." Daniel's eyes gleamed with something mean. "After all, it's important to diversify our gatherings, don't you think?" The word diversify hung in the air. The way he said it made it sound dirty, made it sound like Elena was a charity case, a token, something to be displayed and discussed. Margaret's grip tightened on Elena's arm. "Daniel, don't you have somewhere else to be? Just being a good host, Aunt Margaret." Daniel's smile didn't waver, making sure all our guests feel welcome, even the unexpected ones. Elena's hands curled into fists at her sides. She wanted to say something cutting, something smart, something that would wipe that smug look off his face, but words failed her. They always did when she needed them most. Instead, she just looked at him, really looked at him. Let him see that she understood exactly what he was doing, that his cruelty wasn't clever or subtle. It was just sad. Daniel's smile faltered for a second. Then Andrew Whitmore was there, stepping between them. "Daniel," Andrew said coolly, "Mother's looking for you. Something about the caterers." "I'm sure she can manage," Daniel replied, but his confidence had slipped a notch. "She was very specific about wanting you, right now." Andrew's voice carried authority, the kind that came from being the heir to the Whitmore fortune. Daniel's jaw tightened. For a moment Elena thought he might argue, but then he shrugged and walked away, his friends following. Andrew turned to Elena. Up close, he was taller than she'd realized. His eyes were blue-gray like a winter sky, and right now they held something that looked almost like apology. "I'm sorry about that," he said. Elena didn't know how to respond. Was he sorry for his cousin's behavior, or sorry that she'd come at all? "The invitation," she started, her voice small. "Was it?" "A misunderstanding," Andrew said quickly. Too quickly. "But you're welcome here." "Of course you are." "A misunderstanding." The word felt like ice water down her back. Margaret made a small sound of disapproval beside her, but Andrew was already addressing the room. He raised his glass, and conversations died down again. "Everyone," Andrew said, his voice carrying easily across the ballroom, "I'd like to say a few words about tonight." Elena wanted to disappear, wanted the floor to open up and swallow her whole. "We live in a world that's often divided by walls we don't even see," Andrew continued. He was looking at Elena now, and she couldn't tell if he was helping or hurting. Tonight was meant to be a test, a way to see if we could look beyond those walls, beyond our assumptions. A test. The word made Elena's stomach turn. "And I'm pleased to say," Andrew went on, "that some of us have passed. Miss Brooks has shown more grace and dignity tonight than many people show in a lifetime." There was scattered applause. Some of it sounded genuine, most of it sounded awkward. Eleanor couldn't breathe. She was a test, an experiment, a way for these rich people to feel good about themselves. She turned and walked out of the ballroom, fast, not quite running, but close. Behind her she heard Margaret say something sharp to Andrew, heard his voice calling her name, but Elena kept walking, through the foyer, out the front door, into the cool night air. The garden path stretched before her, lit by small lamps set among the flowers. Elena's heels clicked rapidly on the stone as she hurried away from the mansion, away from the lights and music and cruel, curious faces. She made it to a small gazebo before the tears came. They were angry tears, hot and fierce. She wasn't crying because she was sad. She was crying because she was furious. At herself for being stupid enough to hope, at them for being exactly as cruel as Marjorie had warned, at Andrew Whitmore for making it worse with his fake defense. "Elena," she spun around. Andrew stood at the gazebo entrance, slightly out of breath. He must have followed her out. "Please," he said, "let me explain." "Explain what?" The words came out sharp. "How you invited me here as a joke. How you and your cousin thought it would be fun to humiliate someone. It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like?" Elena stepped toward him, and he actually backed up a step. "Good. Let him be uncomfortable. Was it a bet? Did Daniel dare you to invite the maid and see what happened?" Andrew's face told her she was close to the truth. "Oh my God," Eleanor breathed. "It was a bet." "He had started as one," Andrew admitted, "and at least he had the decency to look ashamed. Daniel said you'd never come, that you'd know your place. And I was angry, and I wanted to prove him wrong. So you used me. I didn't think you'd actually come." The words burst out of him. "I thought you'd ignore the invitation or throw it away. I never meant for you to—" He stopped, ran a hand through his perfect hair. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Elena laughed, but it sounded broken. "You're sorry that I came, that I embarrassed you by showing up." "No, I'm sorry that I was stupid and thoughtless and cruel." Andrew moved closer, his eyes desperate. "Daniel's been pushing me for weeks about how I don't understand real people, how I live in a bubble, and I wanted to prove him wrong, but I did it in the worst possible way, by making me the punchline, by being an arrogant ass who didn't think about anyone but myself." The honest words surprised her. Elena wiped her eyes, trying to salvage what was left of her mascara. "You were different in there," Andrew continued quietly. "The way you stood up to all those stares, the way you held your head high. I've never seen anyone—" He trailed off. "You have more courage in your little finger than most of the people in that ballroom have in their whole bodies." "Don't," Elena's voice cracked. "Don't try to make this into something it's not. Don't pretend you saw something special in me. I'm the maid. I clean your toilets. I don't need your pity or your fake compliments. It's not fake." "Yes, it is." She moved past him, headed back toward the driveway. "And we both know it." "Eleanor, wait. Hey!" Daniel's voice cut through the night. He was walking toward them, that same sharp smile on his face. "There you are, cousin. Chasing after the help." "Really?" Andrew turned on him. "Shut up, Daniel." "Oh, come on. You won the bet. She showed up. You don't actually have to pretend to care about her now." Daniel's eyes slid to Elena. "No offense, sweetheart. You played your part perfectly. Very convincing victim." Something inside Elena snapped. She'd spent her whole life being quiet, being polite, swallowing insults and slights because fighting back only made things worse. But standing here, between these two rich men who thought she was nothing more than entertainment, something in her simply broke. "You're right," she said clearly. "I did play my part. The poor girl who doesn't know any better, who's so desperate for acceptance that she'll walk right into a trap." She looked from Daniel to Andrew and back again. "But you know what? At least I'm not so empty inside that I need to hurt people to feel important." Daniel's smile vanished. "At least," Elena continued, her voice steady now, "I don't have to humiliate others to prove I'm worth something. I work hard. I earn my money honestly. I don't need my family's name to define me." She turned to Andrew. "And I don't need to buy friendship or love or respect, because I actually have something real to offer the world." Andrew looked like she'd slapped him. "So thank you," Elena finished, "for teaching me an important lesson tonight. I should have listened to my friend. She told me people like you don't see people like me, and she was right. You see through us, like we're ghosts." She walked away then, head high, steps steady, even though her heart was hammering, even though she wanted to run and scream and cry. Behind her she heard Daniel say something mocking, heard Andrew's sharp reply, but she didn't stop, didn't turn around. She made it to her car, got inside, locked the doors, and only then in the privacy of her old Honda did she let herself fall apart. The drive home was a blur of tears and streetlights. Elena's hands shook on the steering wheel. Her breath came in short, sharp gasps. By the time she pulled up outside her small apartment building, she felt hollowed out, empty. Marjorie's car was parked on the street. Of course it was. Marjorie had probably been waiting for hours, knowing Elena would need her. Elena climbed the stairs to her second-floor apartment. The door was unlocked. Inside, Marjorie sat on the worn couch, a box of tissues ready on the coffee table. "Hey, honey," Marjorie said softly. That was all it took. Elena collapsed onto the couch beside her friend and cried until there was nothing left inside. Marjorie didn't say, "I told you so." She just held Elena and stroked her hair and let her cry. After a long time, when the tears finally slowed, she fetched a glass of water and made Elena drink it. "Tell me what happened," Marjorie said. So Elena did. She told her everything, the stares, the whispers, the cruel test, Andrew's stammering apology, and Daniel's vicious mockery. When she finished, Marjorie's expression was fierce. "Those bastards! I was so stupid!" "No!" Marjorie gripped Eleanor's shoulders. "You were brave. You hoped for something better. There's nothing stupid about hope. It hurts, though." I know, baby. I know. They sat together in the quiet apartment. Outside, the city hummed with Saturday night life. But in here, it was just the two of them. Two black women who understood what it meant to be invisible, to be looked through instead of seen. You know what makes me maddest? Elena said after a while. For just a minute, when Andrew was talking in the ballroom, I thought maybe he really did see me. Maybe he felt bad. Maybe... She shook her head. I'm such an idiot. You're human, Marjorie corrected. And he should feel bad. They all should. But Elena doubted they would. People like the Whitmores didn't lose sleep over people like her. By tomorrow, this would just be a funny story. The time the maid crashed the party, she would be a punchline forever. Elena changed out of her black dress and threw it in the back of her closet. She washed her face, took down her hair, put on her oldest, softest pajamas. When she finally crawled into bed, exhaustion pulled her under almost immediately. But just before sleep claimed her, she thought about Andrew Whitmore's face in the garden, the way he'd looked at her when she'd told him the truth about himself. He'd looked surprised, maybe even hurt. Good, Elena thought fiercely. Good. And then she slept. Andrew couldn't sleep. He lay in his massive bed staring at the ceiling, watching shadows from the moonlight dance across the plaster. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Elena's face, the way she'd looked at him in the garden, the disappointment, the anger, the truth in her words. You see through us, like we're ghosts. He rolled over and checked his phone. 3 in the morning. The party had ended hours ago. His mother had cornered him afterward, asking about that scene with the maid. Daniel had been smirking in the background, pleased with himself. Andrew had wanted to punch his cousin. Instead, he'd excused himself and come up here to his room, where he'd been lying awake ever since. He'd never felt like this before, this strange mixture of shame and something else, something that made his chest feel tight. Eleanor Brooks had looked him in the eye and told him exactly what he was. Arrogant. Empty. Someone who needed to hurt others to feel important. And she'd been right. Andrew threw off his covers and walked to the window. The estate stretched out below him, manicured and perfect. He'd grown up with all this, had never questioned it. The money, the privilege, the assumption that he was somehow better than other people just because of his last name. But tonight, Elena had shown him what real dignity looked like, real strength. She'd walked into a room full of people who wanted to laugh at her, and she'd held her head high anyway. She'd faced their cruelty with more grace than he'd shown in his entire life. I'm an idiot, Andrew whispered to his reflection in the window. His phone buzzed. A text from Emily, his younger sister. Can't sleep either, he texted back. No. Want to talk? Andrew walked down the hall to Emily's room. She was sitting up in bed, her laptop open, probably working on one of her college papers. Emily was different from the rest of the family. Softer, kinder. That was awful tonight, Emily said as soon as he came in. Andrew sat on the edge of her bed. Yeah, Daniel's the worst. I can't believe Mother lets him get away with that stuff. Emily closed her laptop and looked at her brother seriously. But you weren't much better, Andrew. I know. That whole speech about it being a test, that was so condescending, like she was some kind of experiment. Emily shook her head. I wanted to crawl under the floor. She called me out on it in the garden, told me exactly what she thought of me. Andrew rubbed his face. And she was right about everything. So what are you going to do about it? What can I do? She hates me now, rightfully so. Emily gave him a look, the kind of look their mother used to give them when they were kids and claimed they couldn't clean their rooms. You can apologize, for real this time, not some public speech that makes you look good. An actual, private, sincere apology. She won't want to hear it. Maybe not, but you should try anyway. Emily pulled her knees up to her chest. Andrew, I saw how you looked at her tonight, before Daniel made his stupid joke, when she first walked into the ballroom. How did I look at her? Like you'd never seen anyone before. Andrew wanted to deny it, but he couldn't, because Emily was right. When Eleanor had stepped into that ballroom, something had shifted in the air, or maybe in him. She'd been so beautiful. Not in the flashy way the other women were beautiful. With their designer dresses and professional makeup, Eleanor's beauty was quieter, more real. And when she'd stood there facing all those cruel stares, refusing to run or cry or apologize for existing, Andrew had felt something crack open inside his chest. Go to her, Emily said softly. Tomorrow. Tell her you're sorry. Really sorry. And maybe try to understand why what you did was so wrong. I think I already understand that part. Do you? Because you grew up in this. Emily gestured around at her bedroom, which was bigger than most people's apartments. You've never had to fight for respect, never had to prove you deserve to exist in a space. That's what she deals with every day, and tonight you made it so much worse. The words hit hard, because they were true. Andrew went back to his room, but he still couldn't sleep. Instead, he sat at his desk and tried to figure out how to apologize to someone he'd hurt so badly, how to explain that he wasn't usually this cruel, that Daniel brought out the worst in him, that the bet had seemed harmless at the time because he truly hadn't believed Elena would come. But all those explanations sounded like excuses. By the time the sun rose, Andrew had made a decision. He would find Elena. He would apologize. And he would accept whatever she said to him, even if it was more of the brutal honesty she'd shown in the garden, because she deserved at least that much. Elena woke up Sunday morning with swollen eyes and a headache. For a few blessed seconds, she didn't remember the night before. Then it all came rushing back. The party, the stairs, the test. She groaned and pulled her pillow over her face. "You alive in there?" Marjorie's voice came from the doorway. "No," Elena mumbled through the pillow. "I made pancakes, your favorite, with the chocolate chips." That was enough to make Elena lower the pillow. Marjorie stood there in her pajamas, holding a plate piled high with golden pancakes. The smell of chocolate and maple syrup filled the apartment. "You stayed over?" Elena asked. "Course I did. You think I was going to leave you alone after that mess?" Marjorie set the plate on Elena's nightstand. "Now eat. Then we're going to watch terrible movies and forget all about the Whitmores." It was a good plan. Elena ate her pancakes. She showered and put on comfortable clothes. She and Marjorie settled on the couch with a stack of old romantic comedies, the kind where everything worked out perfectly in the end. But Elena couldn't focus. Her mind kept drifting back to the party, to Andrew's face in the garden, to the way his voice had cracked when he'd apologized. "I'm sorry that I was stupid and thoughtless and cruel." At least he'd admitted it. That was more than Daniel would ever do. "You're thinking about him," Marjorie said during a commercial break. "No, I'm not." "Liar. You get this look, like you're trying to solve a puzzle." Elena sighed. "It's just, he seemed genuinely sorry, in the garden, before Daniel showed up. Honey, men like Andrew Whitmore are good at seeming genuine. That's how they get away with everything." Marjorie pointed at her with the remote. "Don't let a pretty face and some guilt make you forget what he did." "I know, you're right." But as the day wore on, Elena couldn't shake the memory of Andrew's expression, the shame in his eyes, the way he'd looked when she'd told him he was empty inside. He'd looked hurt, like maybe, just maybe, her words had actually reached him. "Stop it," Elena told herself firmly. "He doesn't care. He's probably already forgotten about you." Except she didn't quite believe that. Monday morning, Elena almost called in sick to work, but she needed the money and Mrs. Chen was counting on her, so she dragged herself out of bed, put on her uniform, and drove to a different estate on the other side of town. She was relieved not to be at the Whitmore mansion. She couldn't face those hallways, those rooms, the memories of Saturday night. Tuesday was the same, a different house, different rich people who barely noticed her. Wednesday morning, Mrs. Chen called. "Eleanor, I need you at the Whitmore estate today. 2 of the regular girls called in sick." Elena's stomach dropped. I don't think that's a good idea. "I know what happened Saturday night." Mrs. Chen's voice was kind but firm. "My mother told me, and I'm sorry, but I still need you. The estate is too big for me to handle alone." Eleanor closed her eyes. "Okay, I'll be there." She drove to the mansion with dread sitting heavy in her chest. But when she arrived, Mrs. Chen met her at the service entrance with a gentle smile. "You'll be working the West Wing today. The family is all in the East Wing. You won't see anyone." "Thank you," Eleanor whispered. And Mrs. Chen was right. Eleanor spent the morning cleaning guest rooms that nobody used. She dusted furniture and vacuumed carpets and changed sheets. The work was peaceful, meditative. It let her mind go quiet, until she heard footsteps in the hallway. Eleanor froze, her hands full of fresh towels. "Please don't be Andrew, please don't be Daniel." Emily Whitmore appeared in the doorway. She looked nervous. "Hi," Emily said. "I'm sorry. I don't mean to bother you. I wanted to say I'm sorry. About Saturday. Crafted, nuanced character interaction with empathy and subtlety. Good. I'm progressing the story naturally. Emily is a sympathetic character who will help bridge the gap. I need to keep the dialogue natural and show Elena's guardedness while also showing Emily's genuine kindness." Elena didn't know what to say. Emily hadn't been cruel at the party. She'd mostly stayed quiet, looking uncomfortable. "It wasn't your fault," Elena finally said. "No, but I didn't stop it either. I should have said something, done something." Emily stepped into the room. Daniel's always been a jerk, but Andrew, he's usually better than this. I think Daniel got in his head. That's not an excuse. No, you're right, it's not. Emily twisted her hands together. I just wanted you to know that not everyone in this family is awful. And Andrew feels terrible. He's been miserable for days. Elena turned away and started putting fresh pillowcases on the pillows. That's not my problem. I know, but... Emily hesitated. He wants to apologize. Really apologize. He keeps asking me where you live. You didn't tell him, did you? No, I'd never do that without asking you first. Emily moved closer. But if you did want to talk to him, I could arrange it. Somewhere neutral. Somewhere you'd feel safe. Why would I want to talk to him? Because forgiveness is powerful, Emily said softly. And because I think he's starting to understand what he did wrong. Not just that he hurt you, but why it was wrong. That matters, doesn't it? Elena wanted to say no. Wanted to tell Emily to leave her alone. To tell Andrew to forget about her completely. But a small part of her, a stupid, hopeful part, was curious. What would Andrew say? How would he apologize? I don't know, Elena admitted. That's okay. You don't have to decide now. Emily smiled. I just wanted you to know that not all Whitmores are heartless. Some of us are trying to be better. After Emily left, Eleanor sat on the edge of the perfectly made bed and tried to sort through her feelings. She was still angry, still hurt, but Emily's words had planted a seed of doubt. What if Andrew really was sorry? What if he'd learned something from Saturday night? Stop hoping, Elena told herself. It never ends well. But hope was hard to kill. Thursday afternoon, Eleanor's car broke down. She was halfway home from a cleaning job when the engine started making a horrible grinding noise. She managed to pull into a gas station parking lot before the whole thing died. Helena sat in the driver's seat, staring at the dashboard in despair. She didn't have money for repairs. She could barely afford groceries this week. She called Marjorie, but her friend was at work and couldn't leave. She called the mechanic she usually used, but they were booked solid for the next week. Elena dropped her head onto the steering wheel. This was the perfect ending to a perfect week. A knock on her window made her jump. Andrew Whitmore stood outside her car, looking concerned. Elena's heart did a complicated flip. She rolled down the window. What are you doing here? I was driving by. Saw you pulled over. Andrew glanced at the hood of her car. Engine trouble? What do you think? He flinched at her sharp tone. Right. Stupid question. Can I look? Elena wanted to say no, wanted to call an Uber and leave him standing there, but she was practical enough to know she needed help, and pride wouldn't fix her car. Fine, she said. Andrew had her pop the hood. He bent over the engine, and Elena got out to watch him. He looked different than he had at the party. More casual, jeans and a simple t-shirt. His hair was messy, like he'd been running his hands through it. I'm not a mechanic, Andrew said after a minute, but I think your timing belt snapped. You'll need it towed. Great. I can call my guy. He owes me a favor. He'll come get it today and fix it by tomorrow. I can't afford... I'll pay for it. Elena crossed her arms. No. Eleanor, please, let me help. It's the least I can do. The least you can do is leave me alone. Andrew straightened up and closed the hood. He looked at her directly, and the misery in his eyes was so clear it made her chest ache. I know you hate me, he said quietly. And I understand why, but I need to apologize, really apologize. Not the garbage I said at the party. I don't want to hear it. I know, but I'm asking anyway. Andrew took a breath. Can I buy you coffee? Just coffee. 30 minutes. Let me say what I need to say, and then I'll pay for your car and I'll never bother you again. Elena studied his face. He looked tired, sad, and despite everything, despite all the hurt and anger, a part of her wanted to know what he'd say. One coffee, she heard herself say. 30 minutes, and you're paying for my car either way because you owe me that much. Deal. They went to a small coffee shop down the street, not the fancy kind. Just a regular place with worn tables and decent coffee. Andrew ordered for both of them. He remembered that she liked her coffee with cream and sugar, and they sat in a corner booth. Thank you for giving me a chance, Andrew started. Elena wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. Talk. I was cruel, thoughtless. I treated you like a joke, like you weren't a real person with real feelings. Andrew's voice was steady, but his hands shook slightly. I grew up with everything. Money, privilege, opportunities. And somewhere along the way I started thinking that made me better than other people. That's not an apology. That's an explanation. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Elena. For the bet. For the invitation. For humiliating you in front of all those people. He leaned forward. But mostly I'm sorry for not seeing you. You were right. We look through people. We treat them like they're invisible. And that's wrong. It's cruel. And I'm done being that person. Eleanor wanted to stay angry, wanted to hold on to her hurt like a shield, but his words felt genuine, real. Why do you care? She asked. You could just forget about this. Move on with your life. Because I can't stop thinking about what you said to me in the garden, about being empty inside, about needing to hurt people to feel important. Andrew's eyes held hers. You were right. And I hate that you were right. I hate who I've been, who I've let myself become. So this is about you feeling better, about easing your guilt. No, maybe. I don't know. He ran a hand through his hair. I just know that since Saturday night, nothing feels right. I look at my life, my friends, my family, and all I can see is how shallow it all is, how meaningless. Eleanor took a sip of her coffee. It was good, warm, comforting. What do you want from me, Andrew? A chance to be better, to prove I'm not just what you saw at that party. He paused, and maybe a chance to know you, the real you, not the maid, not the punchline to a joke, just Elena. Her heart did that complicated flip again. Why? Because when you walked into that ballroom, something changed. I saw you, really saw you. And you were the most real person in that entire room. Andrew's voice dropped. You were brave and honest, and you didn't apologize for existing. And I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. Eleanor set down her coffee cup carefully. You hurt me. I know. You made me feel small and stupid for hoping I could be treated like a person. I know. And I'm sorry. I'll say it as many times as you need to hear it. They sat in silence for a moment. Outside the window, the world went about its business. People walked by, cars drove past. Life continued, indifferent to the complicated conversation happening in this small coffee shop. I don't trust you, Elena finally said. I understand, and I don't know if I can forgive you. That's fair. But, she took a breath, I appreciate the apology. The real one. Andrew's face lit up with hope. Does that mean you'll give me a chance? I didn't say that. But you didn't say no. Eleanor almost smiled, almost. Fix my car, that's step one. Already done. I texted my mechanic while you were in the bathroom. He'll have it ready by tomorrow afternoon. Of course you did. But this time there was no anger in her voice, just resignation, maybe even a hint of amusement. They finished their coffee and Andrew drove her home. When they pulled up outside her apartment building, he turned to her. Can I see you again? He asked. Why? Because 30 minutes wasn't enough. Because I want to know your favorite color and what makes you laugh and what you dream about when you can't sleep. Eleanor's heart hammered. This is crazy. Maybe. But sometimes crazy is good. She got out of the car, then leaned down to look at him through the open door. My favorite color is purple, the deep kind, like twilight. I laugh at stupid puns and videos of cats doing silly things, and when I can't sleep, I dream about having enough money to go back to school and become a teacher. Andrew smiled. A real smile, not the polished one from the party. Purple, puns, teaching. Got it. Good night, Andrew. Good night, Elena. She walked up to her apartment, and for the first time since Saturday night, she felt something other than hurt. She felt curious. Andrew called the next day, and the day after that. Short calls, just checking in, asking how she was doing, telling her about his day. Elena kept the conversations brief, polite, but she didn't hang up on him. On Sunday, he showed up at her apartment with groceries. What is this? Elena asked, staring at the bags in his arms. You mentioned you were worried about affording groceries this week because of the car repair. Andrew looked almost shy. So I thought I'd help. Andrew, it's not charity. It's me trying to be a better person. Please let me. Eleanor sighed and let him in. They unpacked the groceries together and somehow it felt intimate, domestic. He'd bought all healthy stuff, fresh vegetables, good bread, real butter instead of margarine. How did you know what to get? Eleanor asked. I called Emily. She called Mrs. Chen, who probably called Marjorie. So basically I had a whole network of women making sure I didn't screw this up. Elena laughed. She couldn't help it. The image of Andrew nervously consulting 3 different women about groceries was too funny. There it is, Andrew said softly. What? Your laugh. It's even better than I imagined. Eleanor felt her cheeks warm. Stop it. Stop what? Being charming. I'm still deciding if I like you. Fair enough. Andrew finished putting away the last of the groceries. So can I take you to dinner, a real date? That's moving fast. We can move slow, coffee again, or a walk. Whatever you're comfortable with. Eleanor considered. He'd been trying so hard. The apology, the car repair, the groceries, and he hadn't once acted like she should be grateful, like she owed him anything. A walk, she decided. Tomorrow. In the park. Perfect. After he left, Elena called Marjorie. "I went on a not date with Andrew Whitmore," she said as soon as her friend picked up. "Girl, what?" Elena told her everything. The broken car, the coffee shop, the groceries, the upcoming walk in the park. "He's trying," Elena finished. "Really trying, and I don't know what to do." "Do you like him?" Marjorie asked. "I don't know. Maybe. Is that stupid?" "It's not stupid, but it's risky." Marjorie was quiet for a moment. "Just be careful, Elena. Men like him come from a different world. And when things get hard, they can go back to that world. But you're stuck in the real one." "I know. But if he's really changed, if he's really trying to be better, then maybe he deserves a chance." That night, Elena lay in bed and thought about Andrew, about the way his hands had shaken when he'd apologized, about the genuine smile when she'd told him her favorite color, about the possibility that maybe, just maybe, people could change. And for the first time in a week, Elena let herself hope. The park was beautiful on Monday afternoon. Spring flowers bloomed along the pathways. Children played on the swings. Couples walked hand in hand, and Elena tried not to think about how she and Andrew might look to strangers. A rich white man and his maid. That's what people would assume. "You're thinking too hard," Andrew said beside her. "I can practically hear your thoughts." Elena glanced at him. He wore jeans again and a simple green shirt that made his eyes look more grey than blue. Normal clothes, like he was trying to blend in. "I'm just wondering what people see when they look at us," she admitted. "Does it matter?" "It might. Eventually." Andrew was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I see a woman who's stronger than anyone I've ever met, who told me the truth when I needed to hear it, who makes me want to be better. That's a lot of pressure to put on one person." "I'm not putting it on you, I'm putting it on myself," he smiled. "You just inspired it." They walked in comfortable silence for a while. Elena found herself relaxing. It was easier out here, away from the mansion and the memories, just two people walking through a park on a pretty day. "Tell me about teaching," Andrew said. "You mentioned wanting to go back to school. I had 2 years of college, education major, but then my mom got sick, and I had to drop out to help with bills." Elena kicked at a pebble on the path. "She died 3 years ago. I always meant to go back, but money's tight, and the longer I wait, the harder it seems." "What would you teach?" "Elementary, 3rd or 4th grade. That age when kids are still excited about learning, when they think everything is possible." Elena smiled. "I want to be the teacher who makes them believe they can do anything." "You'd be amazing at that." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do. You have this way of making people feel seen, like they matter." Andrew's voice was soft. "That's what good teachers do." Elena's chest felt warm. No one had ever said anything like that to her before. "Thank you." They stopped at a bench overlooking a small pond. Ducks paddled across the water, and a little girl nearby threw breadcrumbs to them, giggling when they quacked. "What about you?" Elena asked. "What do you do, besides being rich?" Andrew laughed. "That's a good question. Honestly, not much. I'm supposed to be learning the family business, real estate development, but mostly I just show up to meetings and pretend to understand what's happening." "That sounds boring." "It is. My grandfather built the business from nothing. My father expanded it. And me, I'm just riding on their success." He sounded frustrated. "Daniel loves it. He's already taking on major projects. But I keep thinking there has to be more than buying and selling buildings." "Like what?" "I don't know. Something that helps people, that matters." Andrew looked at her. "Does that sound stupid?" "No. It sounds like you're figuring out who you want to be. Maybe you can help me with that." Elena raised an eyebrow. "I'm not your life coach." "No, but you're honest. You don't tell me what I want to hear. You tell me what I need to hear." He leaned back on the bench. "That's rare in my world. People usually just agree with me or try to use me for connections." "Must be hard," Elena said dryly, "being rich and having people be nice to you." Okay, I deserve that." But he was smiling. "I'm trying to say you're different. In a good way." They talked for over an hour, about everything and nothing, movies they loved, foods they hated, embarrassing childhood stories. Andrew told her about the time he'd tried to run away from home at age 8 and made it all the way to the garden shed before getting scared. Elena told him about winning her 5th grade spelling bee and feeling like a champion. It was easy, natural, and when Andrew's phone buzzed with a call from his mother, Elena felt disappointed that their time was ending. "I have to take this," Andrew said apologetically. But can I see you again tomorrow? I work tomorrow. Wednesday then. Elena hesitated. Then she nodded. Wednesday. As she walked back to her car, Elena realized she was smiling. Really smiling. For the first time since the party, something felt light inside her chest. Maybe Marjorie was right. Maybe Andrew deserved a chance. Wednesday afternoon, Elena was shopping at the grocery store when she heard a commotion in the next aisle. Someone help! She's fainted! Elena dropped her basket and ran around the corner. A small crowd had gathered. In the middle, a young woman lay on the floor, pale and unconscious. Emily Whitmore. Elena pushed through the crowd and knelt beside her. I know her. Give us some space, please. She checked Emily's pulse. Strong and steady. Good. Emily's eyelids fluttered. Emily? Can you hear me? Elena said gently. Emily's eyes opened, unfocused and confused. What? What happened? You fainted, honey. Just stay still for a minute. Someone had called 911. Elena heard sirens approaching. But before the paramedics arrived, Andrew came rushing into the store, his face white with panic. Emily! He dropped to his knees beside his sister. Oh God, is she okay? She fainted. Her pulse is good. She's conscious now. Elena kept her voice calm. Did you know she was here? She texted me, said she felt dizzy. Andrew's hands shook as he brushed hair from Emily's face. What happened? I don't know. I just felt really hot and then everything went black. Emily tried to sit up, but Elena gently held her shoulder. Wait for the paramedics. Let them check you first. The ambulance arrived minutes later. The paramedics checked Emily thoroughly. Blood pressure, blood sugar, temperature. Everything looked normal. Probably just dehydration and low blood sugar, one paramedic said. But you should follow up with your doctor. Make sure there's nothing else going on. I will, Emily promised. Andrew insisted on driving her home, and Elena found herself climbing into his car too. Emily had grabbed her hand and wouldn't let go. Come with us? Emily asked. Please. You made me feel safe. How could Elena say no to that? At the Whitmore estate, Andrew helped his sister inside. Elena followed, trying not to think about the last time she'd been here. The party felt like a lifetime ago. Clara Whitmore was waiting in the foyer. She took one look at Emily's pale face and gasped. What happened? She fainted at the store. The paramedics checked her. She's okay. Andrew's voice was tight. Just dehydration. Clara's eyes landed on Elena. Recognition flashed across her face, followed by something cold. I see. Thank you for your help. You may go now. Mother? Andrew said sharply. It's fine, Elena said quickly. She squeezed Emily's hand. Feel better, okay? Wait. Emily held on tighter. Can you stay? Just for a little while, until I feel better. Clara's mouth thinned. Emily, I'm sure Miss Brooks has other obligations. Actually, Elena heard herself say, I don't. If Emily wants me to stay, I'll stay. The look Clara gave her could have frozen water, but Andrew smiled, relieved. Thank you, Elena. He settled Emily on the couch in the family sitting room, a smaller, cozier space than the grand ballroom. Elena sat beside her while Andrew fetched water and crackers. Clara stood in the doorway, watching. This is highly unusual. Mother, Elena helped Emily. The least we can do is let her make sure she's all right. Andrew's voice had an edge Elena had never heard before. Firm. Protective. Clara left without another word, but Elena could feel the disapproval radiating from her like heat. Don't mind her, Emily said softly. She's just particular. You mean she doesn't like me? Elena said. She doesn't like anyone who isn't from her world. Emily sipped her water. But I like you, and Andrew clearly likes you. That's what matters. Elena felt her cheeks warm. I should check on you. How are you feeling? Any dizziness? No, I feel better now. Just tired. Emily leaned her head back against the couch. Thank you for helping me. You didn't have to. Of course I did. You needed help. Most people would have just called for someone and walked away. I'm not most people. Emily smiled. That's why Andrew likes you. Over the next hour, Emily's color returned. She ate crackers, drank juice, talked and laughed with Elena about everything from college classes to terrible reality TV shows. Andrew watched them with an expression Elena couldn't quite read. Soft, grateful. When Elena finally said she needed to leave, Andrew walked her to her car. Thank you, he said, for helping Emily, for staying. She's sweet. I like her. She likes you too, which is good because she's the only one in my family whose opinion I trust. Andrew stepped closer. Elena, can I take you somewhere? Tomorrow? I want to show you something. What kind of something? A place that matters to me. Where I go when I need to think. He looked almost nervous. It's private, quiet, just us. Elena knew she should say no. They were moving too fast, getting too close, but looking at Andrew's hopeful face, she found herself nodding. Okay, tomorrow. Andrew picked her up Thursday evening in his car, a nice one but not flashy. He drove them out of the city, into the countryside, and Elena watched the landscape change from buildings to fields to forest. Where are we going? She asked. You'll see. He turned onto a small dirt road that wound through trees. After a few minutes, the trees opened up to reveal a lake. The water was perfectly still, reflecting the sky like a mirror. A small dock stretched out over the water, and wildflowers grew along the shore. This is my grandfather's land, Andrew said as they got out. He bought it 50 years ago, before he made his fortune. He always said this place reminded him where he came from. They walked out onto the dock. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. Elena's favorite color, twilight purple. It's beautiful, she breathed. I used to come here as a kid when things got overwhelming, when my parents fought, when school was too much, when I felt like I was drowning in expectations. Andrew sat down on the dock, his legs dangling over the edge. I've never brought anyone else here. Eleanor sat beside him. Why me? Because you're the first person who's felt real in a long time. Everyone else in my life wants something from me, money or connections or status. But you? He looked at her. You just want me to be honest, to be better. That's all. That's not all I want, Elena admitted softly. What else? She didn't answer with words. Instead, she leaned closer and let him see the truth in her eyes, that she was scared, that this was crazy, that she was starting to trust him anyway. Andrew reached up and tucked a curl behind her ear. His fingers lingered on her cheek. Eleanor, don't talk, she whispered. And then she kissed him. It was soft at first, gentle. His lips were warm and he tasted like the mint gum he'd been chewing in the car. Elena's heart raced. This was real, this was happening. Andrew's hand came up to cup her face. The kiss deepened, and Elena felt something in her chest unfold, something that had been locked up tight since the party, maybe even longer. Hope, real hope. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Andrew pressed his forehead to hers. I'm falling for you, he said quietly. I know it's fast. I know it's complicated, but I need you to know. Eleanor's throat felt tight. I want to believe you. I want to trust this. But I'm scared. Your world and mine are so different, and when things get hard, and they will get hard, I don't know if you'll choose me or choose the easy path. I'll choose you. You say that now. I mean it. Andrew pulled back to look at her directly. Elena, you changed something in me. That night at the party when you called me out for being empty, you were right. I was empty, but now I'm not, and it's because of you. I don't want to be responsible for fixing you. You're not. I'm fixing myself, but you showed me I needed to. They sat together as the sun finished setting. The lake turned dark and mysterious. Stars began to appear overhead, and Elena leaned against Andrew's shoulder, letting herself feel the moment. What happens next? She asked eventually. I guess we figure it out together. Andrew drove her home as the moon rose. At her apartment, he kissed her goodnight, soft and sweet and full of promise. Elena floated up the stairs to her apartment. Marjorie was waiting inside, one eyebrow raised. Girl, you are glowing, Elena laughed. I kissed him. I can see that. How was it? Perfect. Scary. Wonderful. Elena collapsed on the couch. I'm in trouble, aren't I? Big trouble, Marjorie agreed. But maybe the good kind. The next morning, Elena woke to a text from Andrew. Good morning. Can't stop thinking about last night. She smiled and texted back. Me neither. Her phone rang immediately. I want to see you today, Andrew said. Tonight. Every day. I have to work. Then I'll pick you up after. Andrew, I know. Too much. I'm coming on too strong. He laughed. But I can't help it. You make me happy. You make me nervous, Elena said honestly. Good nervous or bad nervous? I'm not sure yet. They made plans for Saturday. A real date. Dinner at a nice restaurant. Elena hung up feeling giddy and terrified in equal measure. But that afternoon everything changed. Elena was cleaning at a different estate when Mrs. Chen called. Elena, I need to tell you something. There's talk about you and Andrew Whitmore. Elena's stomach dropped. What kind of talk? The bad kind. Daniel's been spreading rumors saying you're using Andrew, that you're after his money. Mrs. Chen's voice was gentle. I don't believe it, but the family does, and Clara is furious. Elena closed her eyes. Of course, She should have known this was coming. "What should I do?" she asked. "Be careful. People like the Whitmores, they protect their own. And right now, they see you as a threat." After work, Eleanor drove to the Whitmore estate. She needed to talk to Andrew, needed to hear him say that the rumors didn't matter. But as she approached the service entrance, she heard voices from the garden, Clara's voice, and Andrew's. Eleanor stopped, hidden by a tall hedge. "That girl is using you," Clara said sharply. "Can't you see it? She's after your money, your name." "That's not true," Andrew replied, but his voice wavered slightly. "Isn't it? She's a maid, Andrew. She cleans toilets for a living. And suddenly she's kissing you by the lake? Don't be naive. Eleanor's not like that. Then what is she like? What do you really know about her?" Clara's voice turned cold. "Daniel's been asking around. Did you know she has credit card debt? Student loans? She's barely making ends meet. So that doesn't make her a gold digger. It makes her desperate. And desperate people do desperate things." Eleanor's hands clenched into fists. She wanted to march into that garden and tell Clara exactly what she thought of her, but something held her back. She wanted to hear what Andrew would say, how he would defend her. "I care about Elena," Andrew said, "and I'm going to keep seeing her. Then you'll do it without the family's support, without your trust fund, without your place in this family." Silence. "You'd disown me." Andrew's voice was barely a whisper. "I do what's necessary to protect this family's reputation. That girl will ruin us socially, make us a laughingstock." Clara's heels clicked on the stone path. "Choose, Andrew, her or us. But you can't have both." Elena didn't wait to hear more. She ran back to her car, tears streaming down her face. She'd been stupid to hope, stupid to believe this could work. Andrew called her that night 3 times. Elena didn't answer. He texted, "Please talk to me. I need to explain." But what was there to explain? She'd heard everything she needed to hear. His mother had given him an ultimatum, and he'd stayed silent. He'd let Clara call her a gold digger, let her threaten to disown him. And he'd done nothing. Saturday night, there was a dinner at the estate. Elena knew about it because Mrs. Chen had mentioned needing extra staff. But Eleanor wasn't working. She was invited as Andrew's guest. He'd texted her the invitation along with, "Please come. Let me show everyone what you mean to me." Against her better judgment, against Marjorie's protests, Elena said yes. She wore the same black dress from the party. It was still the nicest thing she owned, and this time, she told herself, it would be different. Andrew would stand up for her, would prove that he chose her over his family's approval. She had to believe that. The dinner was in the formal dining room. 20 people sat around the long table, all dressed in expensive clothes, all watching Elena with barely concealed curiosity. Clara sat at the head of the table, her expression ice-cold. Daniel sat across from Elena, smirking. Emily smiled encouragingly from down the table, and Andrew sat beside Elena, his hand finding hers under the table. "Thank you all for coming," Clara said in her cultured voice. "Tonight we celebrate the upcoming merger with Hartwell Properties, a significant achievement for the Whitmore family." Polite applause. Elena tried to eat her food, but every bite felt like sawdust. She was too aware of the stares, the whispers behind hands, the judgment. "So, Miss Brooks," an older woman said from across the table, "how did you and Andrew meet?" "She works for us," Daniel said before Elena could answer. His smile was sharp. "She's one of our cleaning staff." The table went silent. "That's wonderful," the woman said too brightly. "How progressive. We believe in giving people opportunities," Daniel continued, "even if they're not from our usual social circles." Andrew's hand tightened on Elena's. "Daniel, that's enough." "What? I'm just being honest." Daniel leaned back in his chair. "Elena's a hard worker, very ambitious from what I hear. Isn't that right, Elena?" Every eye turned to her. Elena lifted her chin. "I work hard because I have to. Not everyone is born with a trust fund." A few people gasped. Clara's eyes narrowed. "How refreshing," Daniel said. "Such honesty. Tell me, Elena, what attracted you to my cousin? His charming personality or his charming bank account?" "Daniel," Emily said sharply. But the damage was done. The implication hung in the air. Gold digger, social climber, user. Elena turned to Andrew, waiting for him to defend her, to shut down Daniel's cruelty once and for all. Andrew opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "It's not like that," he finally said. But his voice was weak, uncertain. Not a defense, not a declaration. Just words. Daniel smiled triumphantly. "Of course not. I'm sure it's true love. How romantic. Elena stood up. Her chair scraped loudly against the floor. Excuse me. She walked out of the dining room with her head high, even though her vision blurred with tears. Down the hall, through the foyer. Out the front door behind her, she heard footsteps. Andrew, following. Elena, wait, please. She kept walking. Elena. He caught her arm. I'm sorry. I should have said more. Should have defended you better. Should have. Elena turned on him. You didn't say anything, Andrew. When your cousin called me a gold digger, you just sat there. I was trying to keep the peace, trying not to make things worse. Worse for who? For me? Or for you? Elena pulled her arm free. Your mother told you to choose, and you chose them. You chose the easy path. That's not fair, isn't it? When it mattered, when I needed you to stand up for me, you stayed silent. Tears streamed down Eleanor's face. I told you I was scared this would happen, that when things got hard, you'd pick your comfortable life over me. And I was right. Eleanor, please, let me fix this. There's nothing to fix. This was a mistake. All of it. She started toward her car again. I should have listened to Marjorie. People like you don't end up with people like me. That's not how the world works. I don't care how the world works. I care about you. Then you should have shown it in there. You should have told them I matter, that we matter. Elena opened her car door. But you didn't, and that tells me everything I need to know. Don't do this. Don't end this. You ended it, Andrew. The moment you stayed silent. Eleanor got in her car and drove away. In her rearview mirror, she saw Andrew standing in the driveway, alone. She cried the whole way home. Cried for being stupid enough to hope. Cried for believing things could be different. Cried for the beautiful moments by the lake that now felt like lies. Marjorie was waiting, like always. She held Elena while she sobbed, made tea. Didn't say, I told you so, even though she had every right to. Men like him don't change, Elena said through her tears. Not really. Some do, Marjorie said softly, but only if they want it bad enough. Only if they're willing to fight for it. He's not willing. When it mattered, he chose them. And that, Elena thought as she cried herself to sleep, was the truth. Andrew Whitmore had shown his true colors, and they weren't the colors of someone who would fight for her. They were the colors of someone who would always take the easy way out. Andrew didn't sleep that night, or the next night, or the night after that. He lay in his bed and replayed the dinner over and over. Eleanor's face when Daniel had called her ambitious. The way she'd looked at Andrew, waiting for him to defend her. The moment he'd seen her hope die. When it mattered, you stayed silent. She was right. He'd been weak, cowardly. He'd let fear of his family's disapproval keep him quiet when he should have been loud, should have been fierce, should have chosen her. Monday morning, Emily knocked on his door. She came in without waiting for an answer and sat on the edge of his bed. You look terrible, she said. Thanks. You messed up, Andrew. Really badly. I know. Do you? Because from where I sat, you let Daniel humiliate the woman you claim to love. You let Mother intimidate you. You let everyone at that table think Elena was exactly what they wanted to think she was. Emily's voice was sharp with disappointment. That wasn't love, that was cowardice. The words hit like punches. I was trying to keep the peace. Whose peace? Not Elena's. Not yours. Emily stood up. You know what I saw Saturday night? I saw a woman who was brave enough to walk into a room full of people who hated her, who held her head high even when they tried to tear her down. And I saw my brother, who talks about being better, do nothing to protect her. What was I supposed to do? Stand up, Emily's voice cracked. Tell them they were wrong. Tell them Elena matters more than their opinions. Tell them you choose her no matter what. Mother threatened to disown me. So what? Emily threw her hands up. You think money matters more than love, more than being a decent human being? Andrew sat up. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. Either you love Elena enough to fight for her, or you don't. There's no middle ground. Emily walked to the door, then turned back. You told me you were falling for her, that she made you want to be better. But wanting isn't enough, Andrew. You have to actually do it. After Emily left, Andrew got up and looked at himself in the mirror. He looked awful, eyes shadowed, hair messy, face drawn. But worse than his appearance was what he saw behind his eyes. The same emptiness Eleanor had called out at the party. The same weakness that had let him hurt her twice now. I'm empty inside, he thought. She was right all along, unless he changed, really changed. Not just wanting to be better, but actually becoming better. Andrew took a shower, got dressed, and then he did something he'd never done before. He walked into his mother's sitting room without knocking. Clara looked up from her tea, surprised. Andrew, we need to discuss. No, you're going to listen. Andrew's voice came out stronger than he expected. I'm in love with Elena Brooks. Don't be ridiculous, you barely know the girl. I know she's kind and brave and honest. I know she makes me want to be a better person. I know that when I'm with her I feel real for the first time in my life. Andrew moved closer. And I know you tried to destroy that because you care more about appearances than you do about me. Clara's face hardened. I care about this family, about our reputation. That girl is using you. She's not. The only person who's ever used me is Daniel, who manipulated me into that stupid bet in the first place. But you don't care about that, because Daniel fits your perfect picture of what this family should be. Daniel understands his responsibilities. Daniel's a cruel bully who gets off on hurting people. Andrew's hands clenched. And I'm done pretending otherwise. I'm done pretending any of this matters. This is your inheritance, your future. Then maybe I don't want it. The words surprised Andrew as much as they surprised Clara. But once he said them, he realized they were true. Maybe I'd rather have nothing and be happy than have everything and be miserable. Clara stood up, her face pale. You don't mean that. I do, and I'm going to prove it. Andrew headed for the door. I'm going to fight for Elena, really fight. Not the half-hearted attempt I made at dinner. I'm going to show her that I choose her over all of this, over the money and the name and the comfortable life. If you do this, there will be consequences. I don't care. Andrew left before his mother could say anything else. His heart was pounding, but he felt more alive than he had in days. Years, maybe. He drove to Elena's apartment and knocked on her door. No answer. He knocked again. Elena, I know you're in there. Please, just give me 5 minutes. The door stayed closed. Andrew sat down in the hallway outside her apartment. Okay, I'll wait. An hour passed. Then 2. Neighbors walked by, giving him curious looks. Andrew didn't move. Finally, the door opened. Marjorie stood there, arms crossed. She doesn't want to see you, Marjorie said. I know, but I'm not leaving until she does. You hurt her. Twice. I know that too, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life making up for it if she'll let me. Marjorie studied him. Pretty words, but Eleanor needs more than words. She needs someone who's willing to put her first, always, even when it's hard. I am. I will. I just need to prove it to her. Then you better be prepared to do more than sit in a hallway. Marjorie started to close the door, then paused. She's working tomorrow at the Hartwell Mansion, 7 a.m. The door closed. Andrew sat there for another hour, hoping Eleanor would open the door herself. She didn't. Eventually he went home, but he didn't sleep. He spent the night thinking about what he needed to do, how to prove to Eleanor that he'd changed, that he was worth trusting. Tuesday morning at 6:30, Andrew showed up at the Hartwell Mansion. He found Elena in the driveway getting her supplies from her car. She froze when she saw him. What are you doing here? She asked. I came to help. Help with what? Whatever you're doing, cleaning, organizing, I don't care. I just want to be near you. Eleanor's expression was guarded. Andrew, go home. No, I'm working. I don't have time for this. Then I'll work too. Tell me what to do. Elena stared at him. You're serious? Completely. She shook her head, but Andrew caught the smallest hint of softness in her eyes. Fine, you can help me carry supplies, but then you're leaving. Whatever you say. They worked in silence. Eleanor directed him to carry buckets and mops and cleaning products into the mansion. Andrew did everything she asked without complaint, even though he'd never carried cleaning supplies in his life. Mrs. Chen appeared in the hallway and stopped dead. Mr. Whitmore? Good morning, Mrs. Chen. I'm helping Elena today. Mrs. Chen looked between them, then smiled slightly. I see. Well, the guest wing needs vacuuming. 3rd floor. Andrew carried the vacuum upstairs. Elena followed, clearly trying not to laugh. You don't know how to vacuum, do you? She asked. I'll figure it out. And he did. Sort of. He pushed the vacuum back and forth, leaving streaks, because he wasn't overlapping the paths correctly. Elena watched for a minute, then sighed and took over. Like this, she said, demonstrating. Slow, even strokes. Overlap by half. Andrew watched carefully. Got it. She handed the vacuum back, and he tried again. Better this time. They worked together for 3 hours. Andrew vacuumed. Elena dusted. He changed sheets while she cleaned bathrooms. It was hard work. Physical work. By 10 a.m., Andrew's back ached, and his hands were sore. But Elena was beside him, and that made everything worth it. During their break, they sat on the back steps of the mansion. Elena drank water. Andrew tried not to stare at her. Why are you really here? Elena asked quietly. To show you I'm serious, that I'm willing to work for this. For us, there is no us. There could be. If you give me another chance. Elena set down her water bottle. Andrew, you failed me. When I needed you most, you weren't there. I know, and I hate myself for it. But I'm different now. I told my mother I choose you. Told her I'd give up everything for you. I don't want you to give up everything. I just wanted you to stand up for me. Then that's what I'll do. Publicly, loudly. I'll tell everyone you matter. That you're not what they think. That loving you is the best decision I've ever made. Elena's eyes filled with tears. Don't say things you don't mean. I mean every word. Andrew moved closer. I love you, Elena. I'm in love with you. And I'm done being afraid of what that means. You can't just... Yes, I can, and I will. I'm going to fight for you, for us. Even if it takes forever. Even if you never forgive me. He took a shaky breath. You deserve someone who sees you. Really sees you. Who celebrates you instead of hiding you. And I want to be that person. I am that person. I just needed to remember how. Elena wiped her eyes. I'm scared. Me too. But maybe that's okay. Maybe being scared means it matters. They sat in silence. Then Elena said, my shift ends at 2. If you're still here, we can talk, really talk. I'll be here. And he was. When Elena finished cleaning, Andrew was waiting on the back steps. They got coffee, the same small shop as before, and talked for hours. Andrew told her about confronting his mother, about Emily's disappointment, about realizing he'd been living a hollow life. Elena told him about crying herself to sleep, about feeling stupid for hoping, about wanting to believe he'd changed, but being afraid to trust it. I need time, Elena said finally. I need to see that this is real, that you're really different. I understand. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. Over the next week, Andrew showed up everywhere Elena worked. He helped her clean, carried her supplies, made her laugh with his terrible dusting technique. Clara called him daily, furious. Daniel sent mocking texts, but Andrew ignored them all. His focus was Elena. On Friday, Marjorie cornered him outside Elena's apartment. You love her? Marjorie asked bluntly. Yes. Enough to lose everything? Yes. Prove it. Marjorie told him about the upcoming Whitmore Charity Gala, a huge event where all of high society would attend, where Clara would make speeches and Daniel would network and everyone would see what the Whitmore family wanted them to see. Elena's been asked to work it, Marjorie said, as part of the serving staff, and I know that's killing her. Going back to that mansion, being invisible again. Andrew's jaw tightened. She shouldn't have to work it. But she needs the money, so she'll be there, serving drinks to people who think she's nothing. Marjorie looked at him hard. Unless you do something about it, what do you suggest? Show everyone who she really is, what she means to you. Make a statement so big and so public that no one can ignore it. Andrew understood. I'll need Emily's help. Then you better call her. The charity gala was Saturday night. Elena put on the black serving uniform all the staff wore and tried not to think about how much she hated this, hated being back in the Whitmore mansion, hated being invisible again. But she needed the money. So she held her head high and carried trays of champagne through the ballroom where she'd been humiliated months ago. Clara was there, elegant in a silver gown. Daniel stood near the bar, laughing with friends. Emily caught Elena's eye and smiled sadly. Andrew was nowhere to be seen. Of course not, Elena thought. Why would he come? He'd been attentive all week, but this was his world. These were his people. Asking him to choose her in front of everyone was too much. She should have known. Elena was carrying a tray of empty glasses back to the kitchen when the music stopped. She turned, confused. Andrew stood in the center of the ballroom. He wore a simple suit, nothing fancy, and he was holding a microphone. Good evening, he said, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent room. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have something important to say. Clara's face went white. Daniel started to move toward him, but Emily blocked his path. My name is Andrew Whitmore, Andrew continued, and for most of my life I've been exactly what you think I am. Rich, privileged, arrogant. I thought my last name made me better than other people. That having money meant I deserved respect. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Eleanor stood frozen in the kitchen doorway. But a few months ago, I learned something important. I learned that dignity has nothing to do with bank accounts, that grace and strength and courage don't come from privilege. They come from the inside. Andrew's eyes found Elena across the room. I learned this from a woman named Elena Brooks. Everyone turned to look at her. Elena wanted to disappear. Some of you know Elena as our maid, as someone who cleans our houses and serves our drinks, And I'm ashamed to say that's how I saw her too, at first. Andrew moved through the crowd, walking toward her. But Elena is so much more than that. She's smart and kind and brave. She has more integrity in her little finger than most people in this room have in their whole bodies. Andrew, Clara hissed. Stop this. No, Mother. I'm done staying silent. He reached Elena and held out his hand. She didn't take it. I'm done pretending that what we have doesn't matter. I'm done letting people think Elena is anything less than extraordinary. She's using you, Daniel called out. Can't you see it? Andrew turned to his cousin. Actually, Daniel, I'm the one who used her. I invited her to a party as part of your cruel bet. I let her walk into a room where everyone wanted to mock her, and then I sat by while you tried to humiliate her at dinner. The room went completely silent. But Elena? Andrew looked back at her. Elena handled all of it with more grace than I've ever shown. She called me out for being empty, for being weak. And she was right. I was empty. I was weak. But I'm trying to change, trying to be the man she deserves. This is ridiculous, Clara said loudly. Andrew, we'll discuss this privately. No, we'll discuss it now, here, in front of everyone. Andrew's voice was strong, certain, because I want everyone in this room to know that I love Elena Brooks, that she's not using me, that she makes me better and happier and more myself than I've ever been. And if you can't accept that, if you think loving someone outside our social circle makes me less of a Whitmore, then I don't want to be a Whitmore anymore. Gasps echoed around the room. Clara swayed on her feet. You don't mean that? I do. Elena told me once that she has something real to offer the world, and she was right. She offers kindness and honesty and hard work, things that actually matter. Andrew held out his hand to Elena again. Things I want in my life, things I need in my life. Elena's eyes were full of tears, but this time they were different tears. Happy tears, hopeful tears. She took his hand. Andrew pulled her close, right there in front of everyone. I'm sorry I failed you. I'm sorry I let them make you feel small. But I promise you, Elena Brooks, I will never stay silent again. I will never choose comfort over courage. I will always, always choose you. And then he kissed her, in front of his mother, his cousin, all of high society. He kissed her like she was the most precious thing in the world. When they pulled apart, the room was chaos. Some people were applauding, others were whispering furiously. Clara had left, her face a mask of fury. Daniel stood in shock, but Emily was crying happy tears and smiling so wide her face must have hurt. Andrew turned to address the room one more time. If anyone has a problem with me and Elena, you can talk to me about it. But I warn you, I'm done being polite about ignorance. Elena deserves respect, and if you can't give her that, then you don't deserve my time. He led Elena out of the ballroom, past the staring crowd, into the cool night air. Outside, Elena finally spoke. You just blew up your entire life. I know. Your mother's going to disown you. I know. Daniel's probably spreading rumors right now. I know. Andrew cupped her face. And I don't care. Because you were right, Elena. When things got hard, I chose the easy path. But not anymore. From now on, I choose you, always you. Elena kissed him again, soft and sweet and full of forgiveness. I love you, she whispered. I tried not to, but I do. I love you too, so much. They held each other under the stars, and for the first time since they'd met, everything felt right. Real. True. What happens now? Elena asked. I don't know, but we'll figure it out together. 2 weeks later, things had changed. Clara had tried to disown Andrew, but his grandfather's trust fund was ironclad. Andrew had access to his money no matter what Clara wanted. She'd settled for not speaking to him instead. Daniel had spread rumors, but Andrew had fought back. He'd gone on social media, written a public statement, made it clear that anyone who disrespected Elena would answer to him. And slowly, surprisingly, people had come around. Not everyone, but enough. Emily had been his champion, telling everyone who would listen that Elena was wonderful, and Andrew was finally happy. Some of the younger generation thought the whole thing was romantic. Old money meeting real love, a fairy tale with a modern twist. The older generation was less impressed. But Andrew didn't care. He and Elena were official now. She'd moved into his apartment, a place he'd bought himself, separate from the family estate. They were building a life together, a real one. Andrew had also done something else, something that mattered. He'd set up a scholarship fund for people like Elena who'd had to drop out of school to help their families. Full tuition, books, everything. Elena had cried when he'd told her. "You're one of the first recipients," Andrew had said. "If you want it, if you're ready to go back to school." "I can't accept that." "Why not? You earned it. You're the hardest worker I know, and you deserve to chase your dreams." So Elena had enrolled, part-time at first while she still worked, but working toward her education degree, toward her dream of teaching, and Andrew was there for all of it, helping her study, quizzing her with flashcards, celebrating every good grade like it was a victory. They still fought sometimes, about money, about class, about family, but they worked through it, together. 3 months after the gala, Andrew brought Elena back to the estate. There was another party, but this time it was different. Emily opened the door. "Come in. Everyone's so excited to see you both." Inside, the atmosphere had shifted. Clara was there, still distant, but no longer openly hostile. She'd accepted that Andrew wasn't changing his mind, that Elena was part of his life now. Daniel avoided them both, which was fine with Andrew, but everyone else? They treated Elena like a person, asked about her studies, complimented her dress, made her feel welcome. It wasn't perfect. There were still whispers, still judgment from some corners. But Andrew stood beside Elena the whole night, his hand in hers, his love clear and public and unwavering. "You did it," Elena said softly, as they danced together. "You changed everything." "We did it," Andrew corrected. "You showed me how." They swayed together under the chandeliers, and Elena thought about how far they'd come, from that terrible first party to this moment, from cruelty to kindness, from shame to pride. "Thank you," Elena whispered. "For what?" "For choosing me, for fighting for us, for being the man you promised you'd be. Thank you for giving me the chance, for forgiving me, for loving me despite everything." Andrew pulled her closer. "You changed my life, Elena Brooks." "You changed mine too, Andrew Whitmore." They kissed, and around them people smiled, real smiles, happy smiles, because this was what love looked like, not perfect, not easy, but real, true, worth fighting for. And as Elena looked up at Andrew, the man who'd humiliated her, then chosen her, then fought the whole world for her, she knew something with absolute certainty. They were going to be okay, better than okay. They were going to be happy. Epilogue. 1 year later, Eleanor stood in her own classroom, 3rd grade, her own space filled with bright colors and books and the energy of 25 young students who thought she was the best teacher ever. She'd graduated early, working twice as hard to finish her degree. Andrew had been at her graduation, cheering louder than anyone. Now she was here, living her dream. And when the last bell rang and the kids went home, Andrew was waiting outside. He showed up most days, just to see her smile, to hear about her day. "How was it?" he asked, kissing her cheek. "Perfect. One of my students finally understood fractions. You should have seen his face light up. I bet you lit up too." "Maybe a little." They walked to Andrew's car hand in hand. He'd scaled back his involvement in the family business and started his own non-profit, affordable housing for low-income families, using his privilege to actually help people. Elena was proud of him, of the man he'd become. "I have something to ask you," Andrew said as they reached the car. "What?" He turned to face her, suddenly nervous. Then he dropped to one knee. Eleanor's breath caught. "Eleanor Brooks, you are the bravest, kindest, most extraordinary person I've ever met. You changed my life, changed me, made me want to be worthy of you." Andrew pulled out a ring. Simple, beautiful. "Will you marry me?" Eleanor's eyes filled with tears, happy tears, the best kind. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, yes, yes." Andrew slid the ring onto her finger and stood, lifting her into his arms. They kissed, laughing and crying at the same time. Around them, the world kept moving. Cars drove by. People walked past. But in that moment, it was just them. Two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way, who'd fought through judgment and cruelty and fear to build something real, something that would last. "I love you," Andrew said. "I love you too." And Elena knew, deep in her bones, that this was just the beginning. Their story was far from over. There would be more challenges, more fights, more moments when the world tried to tell them they didn't belong together. But they'd face it all, together, because that's what love was. Not the easy moments, not the perfect moments, but the choice to keep fighting, to keep choosing each other, to keep believing that dignity and kindness and courage would always, always win in the end. And as they drove away together, Elena smiled, because for the first time in her life she wasn't afraid to hope, she wasn't afraid to dream, she wasn't afraid to believe in happy endings. because she was living one. The end.